don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hello there. All right, the last episode of The Last of Us. And this literally was exactly like the game, where Joel and Ellie, it's months later, they're kind of not talking to each other because there's this uncomfortable, well, Ellie just went through something scarring, and they just are just not communicating well. They're having trouble finding common ground. They have the ladder scene where Joel needs to boost Ellie up to get the ladder down, and the whole scene where she drops it and it just falls as she's running, going to another location, and then they had the giraffes. I honestly, in the game, didn't care for the giraffes because it was like months later after the whole thing, and I'm just like, it just doesn't. Here, it kind of works because they didn't say 6 months later. It was like, okay, she's still dealing with the scar. It's still pretty fresh. And honestly, something like that will always be fresh. So don't think I'm but the fact that Joel and Ellie have been together for 6 months every day, and the fact that they didn't work through their scars is kind of just like, it takes giraffes to do that. It always bothered me, but here they see the giraffes, they see the miracle that is the world with freedom for every creature other than humans, and it's just it was beautiful shot. And then they start opening up. I think it was just the lack of the giant 6 months later or 3 months later thing. I think it was 6 months later or something like that. That really did add to it a little more. I kind of feel aggravated because the actress who plays Ellie literally made a post, and my friend basically sent me this. If you check it out on the podcast, I had speculated that it would be something far more gut-wrenching and story breaking, not breaking, but as in it's stronger for the story, where Joel basically sacrifices himself after taking out the entire hospital to save Ellie. It builds more of a character moment, and it just endears her to him even more, even though he's gonna. And it would also save the criticism from part 2, where everyone absolutely hated Joel being killed off so easily and so quickly, and which I don't know one way or the other. I don't care one way or the other, but it was just from the storytelling standpoint, I would have liked that, even though it did work with what they did. But I was hoping it would be different, not the exact same thing. Why would the actress obviously never played the game, if she's thinking that this would be groundbreaking? What's absolutely aggravating me is the fact that I was thinking it would be different. They would take a risk, which they'd done so far, and most of it I just didn't care for, and it would just basically split the fan base half and half. Me, I was never a true fan, so they never won me over. It's now just another video game to live action. It has barely any relevant episodes. The fact that, like, okay, I was watching Stranger Things, and the fact that they introduced something at the very beginning of the season, and then it comes back as relevant at the very end, is how you do it. Here in The Last of Us, they introduce things at the very beginning of the season, which is only plot relevant for that episode. You don't do this. This is a huge budget series. This isn't a villain of the week CW sitcom or whatever it is. This is supposed to be a story-driven narrative. Absolutely story-driven. But the only story that's relevant is Ellie needs to get from point A to point B. And there is like Z, G, X, Y all in the way of getting from point A to point B. And they have to create, only plot relevant things for those episodes to make it the villain of the week, instead of just taking from the game or adding because they could have literally copied the game in its entirety and flushed out the series so much more with those freaking openings they had when they were in with crap, I always forget his name. The guy who plays Jonathan in The Mummy. Absolutely amazing. I love that cold open. And then they had the I forgot where it was. Philippines? No, not the Philippines. Vietnam? I don't remember. I remember they mentioned it, and I was like, oh, that's but yeah, they mentioned it, and it was like, oh, that's awesome. Show me more of this world. Show me more of how it operates. They introduced the fact that the whole fungus is a hive mind, and they get rid of that immediately. Everything they had brought up was just to build character for a villain that isn't even in the show. This episode has no infected. The last episode had one infected. The episode before that had no infected. The episode before that had no infected. Wait. So, no infected, no infected. I'm going backwards. So last episode, no infected. The episode before that with David, no infected. The episode before that with Ellie and Riley, one infected. The episode before that with Tommy and whatever, no infected. The episode before that, a ton of infected. The episode before that, no infected. The episode before that, there was just the infected that were behind the wall that Bill was shooting like they were fish in a barrel. Is that the term? Yeah, and then the episode before that, there was the infected that kissed Tess, and then the episode before that, there was the outbreak. So what, like 3-4 episodes with infected, and then everything else was just, yeah. So overall, it fails. I'm going to say it fails as a series. Sure, it was the most, relevant to the source material. However, because it's a villain of the week, like one thing I like to people praise that The Lord of the Rings is the most, the strongest correlation to the books. However, it isn't. They got rid of the whole Saruman and the hobbits in the Shire kind of scenario from The Return of the King. They got rid of that entirely because it didn't really add relevancy to the overall story. So they used what worked, and they kept it relevant to the source material, which is what absolutely everyone loves. When you go to the Rings of Power, it's not even close to the source material that everyone just absolutely despises it. It's just one of those things that when you have an IP, you keep it relevant, but at the same time, you twerk what needs to be twerked for the visual media. However, since a video game is already a visual media, you can literally take the majority of that original story, just give us more elements that flush out the story. You have the opportunity to, because as a narrative-driven game, you are following a character. You are following that character's story. So the fact that they had freaking openings about the world at large in the first 2 episodes only was the best part. And then they started introducing Villain of the Week and all this other stuff. But you know what? That's just... check out the podcast. I'll probably get into an argument with my friend. Check out Words of Personality. I got a link down on my homepage. Thank you all for watching. Talk to you next time. Toodles.